If you have taken part in a protest in Ghana before, tell me about which protest was it. If you haven't, why? Because almost all of you who listen complain about something. I mean, one of the things I know about our listeners is that they always have something on their mind. So they complain about many, many things. Why have you not taken part in a demo before? Or why have you taken part in a demo if you have? I want to know. But let me get some more context on the Kenya issue before we do the deeper discussion. So Godfred Akotobafo is my colleague. Lived and worked in Kenya for a while, and he's roaming all over the world. I don't even know whether he's in Ghana. I don't even know where he is. Godfred, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Bernard. Good to hear you.
Yes. Can you explain to us what's happening in Kenya?
Well, in simple terms, the citizens of the country are not very happy with their living conditions. I think that if we discussed the Kenyan election in 2022 and the campaign that was run by William Ruto, who had been vice president to then President Uhuru Kenyatta, he ran what we call the Hustler campaign, which basically was a campaign that ran on the theme of being a man of the people. He ran under the ambit of reducing the cost of living, making life more affordable, opening up the economy. And he had said that although things were difficult during Uhuru Kenyatta's time, he would improve living conditions of most Kenyans within a year. Now, of course, he had been linked with the government, then he distanced himself from some of the things. And truth be told, Kenya found itself in a significant economic hole, similar to what Ghana owes a lot of money. Because he borrowed heavily to invest in significant infrastructure investments that have not paid off till date. So William Ruto takes over, comes into power, and the reality dawns on him that, well, the country is broke and he needs to actually pay up. And one of the ways to pay up is taxation. And so this bill was proposed way back in 2023. And if you would recall, then Raila Odinga called for protest then. It was called the 7 Days of Rage at the time, to protest against the high living conditions and some of these proposals. Quite a few people were shot during that protest, and then things died down. But since the 18th of June, things have picked up again because it became imminent that the finance bill was going to be passed. And in fact, it was passed on Tuesday. But the initial protest led to some aspects of the bill, for instance, being changed. So it dealt with things like taxes on basic items. So they were going to tax bread, for instance, a 16% sales tax on bread, 25% duty on cooking oil. They were then also planning to increase taxes on financial transactions, as well as a new annual tax on vehicle ownership, which amounted to 2.5% of the value of the vehicle. Then there was also the eco levy, but those ones were removed after the initial protest. But certain aspects were kept on the bill, in the bill that was passed on Tuesday. For instance, they kept the part that taxes specialized hospitals. That is for the construction of specialized hospitals. When you import those things, and there's a tax on it, Kenyans are saying is going to increase the prices of just general health care, and then just general taxation as well on imports. So that is what broke the camel's back and has led to this, if you are looking for a build-up. Now, in terms of how organic this is, I think if you know the history of protests in Kenya, it's mostly been political-led. It's either the Luos leading it or it's the Kikuyus leading it, based on which part of the political divide you belong to. Now, this has been different. This has been largely organic, built online. If you followed the trajectory of this, like I said, from around the 18th, activists went online, used all kinds of tools to engage the general public. Education went on in different languages on what the finance bill was and what it meant for regular Kenyans. They sought funding from people, they crowdfunded. So very, very organic, and underscored quite a shift from the ethnic-based mobilization that we are used to when it comes to Kenyan protests. So this has been pretty different to observe, and you would have realized that in the intensity of the protests we've seen and how widespread they are, because generally, like we discussed, you mentioned, for instance, Eldoret, where an MP from the Tongaran district, for instance, I don't know where they caught him for in his house, or so his constituents beat him up properly for voting yes. And they basically made a video of it and said, why did you not come and discuss with us before voting yes? So if you have a protest that spreads across over 30 counties out of the 40-something counties that exist, it tells you that this goes beyond just the politics.
So it's actually 35 out of the 47 counties had demonstrations yesterday. My question is, could the point about this not being driven by ethnicity also be because Ruto is possibly the first non-Kikuyu, non-Luo president, if I'm right? Because usually the two main groups are the Kikuyus and the Luos, and he is a Rift Valley person. So he's basically like in no man's land in a way. So it's the two main ethnic blocks are not necessarily with him. I don't know whether that counts for anything. Number two, the role of young people, because it's been described as a Gen Z protest by even the nation and Kenyan media. So this is not even a Western. Kenyan media are described as the Gen Z protest. Can you just put a bit of meat on that? The fact that the young people of that generation are so angry over a tax law.
Well, it's not just about the tax law. It's just that the young people of Kenya, if you've lived in Kenya before, they've always been politically mature in terms of what is happening in their country, and significant conversations are had. Most often than not, though, those conversations were left online. But like I've been saying, the frustration has been building because people are unable to save anymore. People are seeing the opportunities reduced. And if you've lived in Nairobi before, it's not a very expensive place to live in. You can live quite well. Food is not expensive. But suddenly people are unable to buy basic things like bread. If you lived in Nairobi, ugali is a staple. That is corn. That suddenly people are unable to afford corn flour. People are unable to pay school fees. You would realize in your build up to this, you said there was a protest on Sika Road. Now, if you know Sika Road is an 8-lane highway, right? And it's the main highway that links Nairobi to the industrial district. I lived in Sika Road for 2 years, to the industrial market. It is not a very wealthy place. It's where you find most of the people who work in the informal sector. And they would move from there to work in Nairobi and then go back. So you would realize that there was a significant migration from Sika. Now, that goes beyond the ethnic boundaries, because these are people who just basically cannot eke out a living anymore. Most of these people are hand to mouth. These are not people who work in the public sector. These are not people who work in large corporations. These are people basically who are hawkers. These are people who work as laborers in factories in that part of town. And to have that kind of migration from Sika Road towards Nairobi should tell you exactly the kind of protest and just how widespread it is. Now, in terms of the lack of the lack of ethnic support in this one, it's a pretty unique description you've given. But in my opinion, I think that even if it had been a Luo or a Kikuyu in charge, this protest would still have happened because of the significant difficulties that Kenyans find themselves in. The past 2 years have been really, really tough economically for Kenyans. And some of the taxes also based on the promises that were made by William Ruto and his inability to see through those promises. Of course, based on political reality, debt is debt. You have to pay up. But then you told people, I will find ways to make your lives easier. Has not gone down well with both sides. And both sides have realized that, look, this is something we need to deal with. So I think, in my estimation, if it had been a Luo or a Kikuyu in charge, we would still have seen this being significantly widespread, because there was nothing that was going to be able to be done about the debt that was looming. Right. Money needed to be raised one way or the other.
So it's purely economic. But last point, Ruto appears, again, we see some of his videos when he came in the first few months. His rhetoric was really nice, right? He was talking about Africa, we should think for ourselves. And of course, we in Ghana, it's easy to watch a president of another country and say he's doing well because he sounds right. Did the Kenyan people get enamored with him the way some Ghanaians were? And is it that his stance is worsening things? Well, I mean, is he what kind of person is he? Because again, I've heard him say, I think yesterday when he addressed the nation, that he will meet fire with fire. You get me? So what can you decode Ruto for me and his role in this?
Well, I mean, if you know the political history of Ruto, from his history with the ICC and back in the last election, politically, he's somebody who is not afraid of the fire. He exudes a certain calm confidence, he knows how to speak, he's a good orator. And there are a lot of people who genuinely believe that he wanted to make a difference. But that does not also hide the fact that, look, he was linked with the Kenyans for a very long time, benefited significantly of it, was heavily investigated for corrupt activities, particularly with the construction of a large dam, where it came to the public for that, some amounts of money had been paid to him to enable contracts to be paid. But be that as it may, Kenyans just wanted a split, and he found a way to enter, the political psyche of Kenyans with his hustler campaign. And Bernard, I cannot underestimate or downplay just how important that was, which is perhaps reflected in the frustration that we see now, because he genuinely told people that, look, I am from you. I came from you. I will make sure that you benefit. It is no longer going to be about the political elite. Political clientelism is going to end. I am your man, which is why he called this the hustler campaign. And a lot of people bought into the hustler campaign, should be told, which is why he won the election the manner in which he won it. So for this person, whom a lot of Kenyans repose that kind of faith in, to suddenly turn around after a year. He came into power in 2022. By 2023, March, April, we already had protests. 24 persons died during that protest. And it was because of the economic situation. But that was called by Raila Odinga, and mostly happened in his part of the country, the western part of the country, where he's almost a monarch. But this is very different, okay? People are saying, this is not what you promised us. And I guess the responses we had from Ruto yesterday, where basically these persons who are protesting are basically being branded as almost traitors to the state, was a bit surprising, but also perhaps affirms the discomfort that this has given him, because he now has to face the stark reality that perhaps he's not as popular as he thought he was, and his decisions, no matter how prudent he thinks they may be to keep the country sane, have not been in line with the promises that he made. And activists on the street, protesters, are basically saying, live up to the political promises that you made.
Wow, thank you. We really wish we could talk more, but I know you have to go. So thank you, Godfred.
Always a pleasure.
Hope to talk to you soon. That's Godfred Akotobafo, formerly on the City Breakfast Show, still in the media, lived and worked in Kenya, giving us some context. Let me make a quick correction. So, William Ruto is not the first non-Luo, non-Kikuyu president. Ghana Arap Moi was a Kalenjin, which Ruto also is. But after Arap Moi's departure, most of the presidents that have come in have been Kikuyu. But that's an information I just had to put in. So again, the point is 35 out of 47 counties, and all the major counties are protesting. Because a lot of us may not even know Kenya, there's no point mentioning the name, but the list is there. One of the very key flash placards you will see, stop arrogance, listen to Kenyans, and they use the Kenyan national colors. Stop arrogance, listen to Kenyans. So Godfred's point around people feeling betrayed, very important indeed. But the question for the day is still on. Have you taken part in a protest before? If you did, which one was it? If you haven't, why haven't you ever? And this is local, national, district, whatever kind of protest, right? Have you taken part in any kind of protest before? If yes, what was the issue? If no, why not? Hey, let me read some of your comments on the matter of protests. This is coming in from Emmanuel. Bernard, yes, I protested. I was part of the terrible Tessie Road Street protest a few months back, all right? Kujo says, I participated in the Nooks SRC demonstration against the introduction of the academic user facility AFUF in 1998, led by Honorable Haruna Idrisu. We marched from the Gon campus to Parliament House. We were brutally repelled by ACP Kofi Buachi's led police and his men. I walked from Parliament House back to Legon. This is a comment coming in from Kujo on his demonstration credentials. Yes, another one. Ben, we didn't see any massive demo because it's the MPP that's in power. Let's get it straight. The majority of the media is in favor of the MPP, except a few. I took part in the first Doomsday demo under JDM. I was tired of the outrages. Junior Blade, Committee 25 Junior. But even that demo wasn't that big. You know, the demo with... I mean, look, we're talking...
Okay, but what do you classify as big?
See, Kofi Preku was big. Right? 1995, I was in JSS 3. The whole city was choked. Kenya, you have 40... Now think about it. You have 47 counties. 35 are demonstrating at the same time. When was the last time there was a simultaneous demo in Ghana? Not in living memory. So usually it's Kumasi or Tamale or Accra or Takrady. So sometimes we even have demonstrations. Most demonstrations are local. So they're demonstrations about roads, about street lights and that kind of thing. So if I have not seen a coordinated national demo like they are seen in Kenya in most places.
I think that the two environments are not the same. So we may not necessarily have coordinated demonstrations all over. Now, I believe that the following reasons I will state. A lot of people say, oh, blah, blah. Look, I think that in our own way, demonstrations have helped. Demonstrations have caught government's attention. It's just that it is government stubbornness and a deliberate way or deliberate stance of not wanting to do anything. Now, last year in September, there was the Occupy Jilobi House demonstration. If you ask me, that was huge because you had international press covering it. Now, the other reason why, or some people will say, oh, yeah. But the other reason why sometimes the demonstrations may not, to some people, they may not strike a chord is for a number of reasons. One, sometimes demonstrations don't even get the needed support they need to get. And that support must come from people who have a stake in running this country. If you take government out, because usually people demonstrate against government policy. And sometimes you don't have a lot of buy-in from certain elements. Sometimes the media doesn't even care. There could be days when things are happening and the media is talking about some other very different thing. Then you could have elements such as, or important people such as the Ghana Bar Association, for example. Now, let me read this statement that the Law Society of Kenya put out in relation to what is happening in Kenya. I'll read portions to you. So this is the Law Society statement on killing of protester during the finance bill demonstration. Effectively, the statement says, just a few paragraphs, it says, I speak to you on this Black Tuesday, not just as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, but equally as a peace-loving patriot. Apart from being the LSK president, I am a mother, an aunt, a sister, a daughter, and a wife. Like all mothers whose children have been killed, injured, tortured, or abducted in the hands of cops, I feel the pain of my countrymen. That's just the opening paragraph.
This is who?
This is the Law Society of Kenya. This statement was
a particular matter.
Yes. Okay. A protester that was killed during what's happening in Kenya. Now, this is coming from the Law Society president and by extension, the Law Society. When have we ever, in the last few years, had a protest or a demonstration and the Ghana Bar Association has said something? So I'm just making this point to say that sometimes a lot of these protests in other countries work because they are done on the back or other people give them support. So you have the Law Society here. We saw images of the clergy going to give protesters water. Have we not been in this country where we've heard the clergy scream everywhere, but when times change, they are quiet? Think about how vibrant the clergy was between let's say in John Mohammed's last few years. And we all saw it. The prayer sessions, the prayer meetings, the sermons, the press conferences. In the last few years, things have happened in this country. We've wasted funds on the National Cathedral. E-levies here. People can't buy food to eat. People are struggling to live from hand to mouth. I'll tell you a story. Last week, I went to pick my wife from work, and I was at the gate when a certain gentleman approached me. He was selling trainers or jeans. I can't seem to remember. He was practically on his knees begging me to buy a pear because he hadn't eaten the whole day. His child was in the hospital. Meanwhile, in these last few years, things have deteriorated. Our parents, our grandparents, our older uncles and aunties have gone to pick up at the finance ministry. Why? Because they've worked so hard, 20, 30 years of active service, and then their pensions have been touched. Haircuts, investments, gone. The same clergy that was screaming from the rooftops, the same clergy is quiet.
Let me get you right. You're saying, even though people are frustrated, the reason demonstrations have not resonated like the way we are seeing is because important sectors of society like the media, professional bodies have not supported.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted you to push that a bit because from what Godfrey describes and what we see, of course, no demonstration is leaderless, right? So there are people behind the scenes, but this seems quite spontaneous, and this is so broad based.
Yes.
And my argument is that even under NDC, we didn't see this type of demonstration. Do you understand? So like people demonstrate, but look, Gafaru, my colleague, did a survey and compared Ghana to other African countries, and it seems to me as if the protest culture is not even here that much. So whilst I take your point around maybe specific sections of society offering different types of support in different regimes, I think that even if you take 10 years, I don't think there's been even the what do you call it, the Doomsday must stop them.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that big. It was just in Accra.
Yeah, but
that's the other point. It was just in Accra. You see, the reason is that a lot of politicians will say that, oh, you put in Accra, you think Accra is everything. Somebody has done demo in 35 counties. So that tells you that it's national. Usually, Accra is the place where the middle class elite and things go and hit the streets. Do you understand me? So it's not even national in the anger.
I will say, I will say that I'll never ever measure a demonstration by the size of people who attend. I will measure the success of a demonstration by the kind of reaction you get from the state. And in any case, when you look at even our history, and some of the messages will confirm this, lots of people have seen their friends, relatives, and all of that get beaten up, arrested needlessly, harassed needlessly at the demonstration. So they may not want to go. It doesn't mean they are not concerned.
But that's the point. See, the point I think you are now hitting the point I thought was the main issue, because maybe people are petrified. It's not necessarily because they've not had support or whatever.
But why then should we live in a democracy? Yeah. We've done 30 years of this. Why then should people be petrified?
Yeah, but
to go out there and
but the Kenyans, 5 of them have been, look, and let's don't get me wrong.
But I'm not supposed to go and get
look, the Kenyans have had a demonstration. 5 people have died. Okay, and this is a nationwide demonstration. Kenya is a much larger country population-wise than Ghana, but this is a more broad-based demonstration. I'm saying that apart from Kumipreku 1995, we have not seen any, let me use the word, serious demonstration. So, and I'm coming, the word serious is in a sense of national, spontaneous, broad-based. Okay, now it will be useful to also look at the psyche of the Ghanaian, the role of the middle class, and other issues in addition to because you're almost saying like so many people want to protest, but they are not getting support. That's why they're not protesting. Maybe they actually don't want to. Maybe they don't want to.
You see, again, I'm saying more people will be emboldened if they know, right, that very important groups, body sectors of this society are with them. I read portions of a state.
Protest the culture. If you don't have a protest culture, I think the culture of Ghanaians is calling into radio stations and talking and
more. You see, you can say so because at the end of the day, the outlet we may have is the ballot.
Yes.
That's why I said some of these things could be cultural. You mentioned the culture, which is true. Maybe it is not part of, but I feel that it is something that more people are open to doing now than say 20 years ago. The young people of this age are not too afraid of stepping. Like I'm saying, okay, Occupy Jolobi has an example. We saw people do Doomsaw demo. They've done that. People have done localized demonstrations. The point I'm making is that a lot of the success that we are seeing, for example, in Kenya, is because certain pillars in society are not afraid to back these people and say, we are with you. We may not be. Even the lawyers went, you've watched the videos, the lawyers were out in the streets of Nairobi and wherever. But when some of these things...
I feel that point, and I'm arguing with you here, I feel that point unnecessarily takes the onus away from the ordinary citizen generally.
But who is the ordinary citizen?
The people you saw on the Kenyan streets. The people you saw on the Kenyan streets were not there under any banner. Right? They organized on social media and then they went out to protest.
Again, I'm saying that the success of a demonstration, I don't think you can quantify it with numbers. Occupy Jolobi House was galvanized on social.
You see, let's qualify. There are many ways you can look at a demo. Fine, you can say a demonstration is successful because it achieved its aim. Some demonstrations are there to make a point. But when you talk about a demonstration about national economic issues of the scale you are seeing, and they are even holding their MPs. Now, think about it. Look at the kinds of things that happens in our parliament. Again, I'm not saying someone should go to parliament and beat anybody, but these guys were asking their MPs why you didn't come and consult us before you voted. Okay, so I am saying that maybe the Kenyans are more informed about, maybe they understand better the issues. He also said that this is the first time that a demonstration was not based on ethnic mobilization. So maybe the young people in Kenya, generally, the conversations they have on social media are more informed about policy, and they probably understand the issues better, which is why they went straight to their MPs to say, don't pass this bill. Okay, we usually, sometimes our protest is after the fact. And again, a lot of the things are not things you can stop. So for example, if there's corruption or maybe there's like mismanagement, they are very general points. But if there's like one law that they are going to pass on a specific day, that you believe you can stop with a demo, maybe it gives them more impetus to go and say, we are going to protest against this law, than simply to say, we are hungry.
Godfred made a point. He said the demonstration was not political. It was not tribal.
It was not partisan.
It was not partisan. Yeah. Brilliant. Therein lies our problem. And I'll give you an example. When e-levy came up, you can do a cursory look on social. Right? Cursory look on social. E-levy, which is going to bite my pocket, your pocket, Richard's pocket, and everybody's pocket. You still had people saying that e-levy was good and that government should tax Nana Twaso and all kinds of things. That is the challenge. The challenge is that we are overly politicized. So even when it is biting all of us, we fail to see that it is biting me as a Ghanaian.
But so people have sold their conscience to a party. So when their party is in power, they don't protest.
Good. So
their party can. So that means that Ghana is split 50-50 down the middle, as against societies like Kenya where it's a bit more nuanced. That's an interesting angle. So let me just summarize what you said. Number one, people are not seeing protests because certain key sectors in society are not supporting. Some of the history of violence makes people don't want to demonstrate.
History,
you don't want to measure protests by number of people who protest. Is more whether they have the impact or not. And then the excessive partisanship, which always swings the pendulum. So there's always one half who will not protest because their favorite party is in power. So it means our context is different from Kenya, which is quite interesting. But I think a couple of questions for all of you. Are young people, are they as NPP, NDC as the older people? So people who are Gen Z in Ghana, those who are maybe below 27 years old, are they also partisan like the way our parents? You know, is it
some? Listen,
maybe let me think about
an aspect of young people.
When you follow social media,
an aspect of young.
Are they? I'm coming. When you follow social media, do you sense that our Gen Zs are MPP, NDC, or they are more frustrated with both? What do you sense?
Okay, when I just look at things on social, there's a section. There are sections that are overly like.
Among that age group.
Yes, some by default, some because my dad supports it, so I go with it. Some do it because they feel, okay, I align to this. Some people support probably because of a game.
So generally, when they are discussing these things on social media, you are able to see.
You can tell.
You can tell the party.
You can tell when people make points. You can tell where they belong.
Even among the Gen Zs.
Yes.
But that's interesting. And I hear them say when they meet me that they are frustrated with the system, that our politics is not helping them. So is it for want of a third option that even though they complain like this, when they go on social media, they still.
I believe this is what I think.
Yeah.
I believe that if a third force arose, and that third force was strong enough to take down the established two, and that third force was strong enough to align its core beliefs and its plans with the aspirations of the average young Ghanaian, that third force could win. But I don't see that happening, because a lot of young people are even very suspicious. They are so suspicious of politicians. Even when a third force emerges, they will look at that third force and ask themselves, where is he from? Where is he coming from? Are you independent of these two established forces?
Ghanaian youth are also looking, because everybody who emerges will have to come from somewhere. You get it? So I'm pushing this third force argument. Maybe some of them are thinking too much around. They want some untainted person. So even though they are frustrated with the establishment, they still don't want to follow a third force because he either came from NPP or NDC or whatever. Okay. Anyway, so those are interesting points Nathan makes. It's 8:32. I'll do a few more announcements and I'll read some of your comments as well. I'll take guys' take on this as well. I agree with two things Nathan said. I agree with the point he makes about the excessive politicization, which always makes issues more about politics, partisanship than over the real issues. I think that point is a very. I agree with that point. I also agree with the point around the history, that a lot of adults in Ghana will tell their kids that Charlie. So I think our parents have socialized us to say Charlie, man, we'll go to work and wait 4 years we'll get to Abba. You get it? So it's like, because my argument is not even about MPP necessarily alone. I'm saying that generally the protests have not been as there's a word called protest culture.
I agree. It's not default.
Yes,
it's not default.
I have friends from Togo when I was in secondary school. One of them had marks on his body for protests against Eyadema almost every 2 years. Yeah, and a lot of francophone people in some of the countries where there's no proper election,
they do this.
They charge over something. It's also so whilst the partisanship sort of divides the people, it also in a way helps to release the tension.
Yes, that's why I said that.
If you see, some people don't see the possibility of changing government at the ballot, and therefore they go to the street. Maybe the Ghanaian calculation is that, look, I don't have food to eat. I have to go and sell foods. 2024 is coming. I'll vote. Why should I go and demonstrate? Maybe that's how they do the calculation. So the socialization, the economic reality, and also the possibility of changing government so reduces the anger or sort of gives him an outlet.
That's what I'm saying. So
you go to a radio station and speak whatever I want to say.
So we have all of that, and then at the end you go and vote, right? But in places where there's not that, that's when. So if you mentioned Togo and other countries, they'll go to demonstrate. The thing with Kenya, and I'm happy Godfred mentioned this, that there's no politicization of this one. It's a policy, whatever.
They've not done it yet.
But you see,
now they might say they are criminals who are infiltrating.
It's a policy.
Let's wait till 7 days are over.
It's a policy the government is thinking of implementing, and everybody across the board sees that this will bite all of us. In the last 2 years, things have been tough in Kenya. So after 2 years, they realize that we can't take this anymore. So now we'll tell government to its face that we can't take this. Let's not forget, democracy is not nice and courteous. Democracy is up in your face, is rude, is strong. We let our voices and we tell you what we think.
Let me. I like your flow, but give me 2 minutes. 8:34, and let me give you a quick announcement. As a business, you're always exploring innovative ways to maximize your operations and foster growth in today's dynamic environment. We know that no great story was ever written alone. With a little help from the Absa Supplier Finance Program, you can pay your suppliers early so that you pay later. By optimizing your working capital, your suppliers also benefit from early access to funds, enhancing their stability and cash flow. So what are we saying? Talk to us, help you build your next level. Visit absa.com.gh for more information. Your story matters with Absa. Escape the hustle and bustle of Accra life and find your sanctuary at the Traco Woodlands, a master plan gated city in Dawenya, just a minute's drive from Central University. With a 592-acre landscape, Woodlands offers service plots and homes in a self-sustaining community with well-planned roads, utilities, top-of-the-line security, and more. We have clubhouses, fitness centers, swimming pools, and more. Acquire a litigation-free land today. Call 0208-732-302. The Africa Prosperity Network is hosting the continent-wide Mobile Interoperability Symposium on July 5 at the Labadi Beach Hotels in Accra. It's on the theme Scaling Up Interoperability Using Mobile Money to Buy and Sell Across the Continent. This event brings leaders and policymakers together to integrate mobile payments and remove barriers to cross-border trade. It supports AFTA's Digital Trade Protocol. To register, call 053-609-8325. That's 053-609-8325. Or send email to protocol@africaprosperity.network. And whether you're importing or exporting or involved in any of our international trade issues, Bank of Africa is here to provide all the needed support to make your cross-border trade transactions seamless. With presence in over 30 countries across the world, Africa, Asia, North America, and Europe, we are well positioned to provide advisory and financial support. Call Bank of Africa 0302-429-333, 0302-249-690, or visit any of our branches nationwide. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
As Kenyan Parliament approved a contentious finance bill that pushes up taxes, police and protesters clashed in the streets of the capital Nairobi and other cities. At least 5 protesters have been killed and dozens have been wounded as police opened fire on demonstrators trying to storm Kenya's legislature. Former US President Barack Obama's half-sister was also tear-gassed on live television. What started out as peaceful protest turned ugly by the afternoon as crowds of protesters began throwing stones at the police and pushed back against barricades, making their way towards the Parliament complex, which was sealed off by police in full riot gear. This resulted in massive clashes between police and hundreds of protesters. The Kenya Red Cross said that its vehicles had been attacked in anti-tax demonstrations. Several staff and volunteers were injured. Protesters also set sections of Kenya's parliament ablaze after the bill was passed. Police resorted to opening fire on protesters, resulting in several casualties.
I don't want him as my president. I even regret why I voted him. Yes, he must go. This mini finance bill, we are not amending. We are rejecting.
We withdraw
everything. We withdraw it. The money that he uses to travel, ajipange, ametuharibia economy. He must go. Ruto, you must by force.
We are
not pleasing you. We are not pleasing you. Must go by force.
As tensions escalated, anti-tax protesters set Nairobi City Hall, which houses the county offices, and the Nairobi Governor's office on fire. Even the half-sister of former United States President Barack Obama was not spared by the police crackdown in Nairobi. Auma Obama was tear-gassed by police during an interview with CNN Live on Air while protesting Kenya's controversial finance bill. Across the country, protesters vented their ire over the government's tax push. After Nairobi, protests spread to other cities like Mombasa, Kericho, Eldoret, Kisumu, just to name a few.
there are only three things that can make us sit on the table to discuss with this government. Exactly. Thing one, they do not have to amend this thing. Let them scrap it off.
Been called the hustler generation. And during election, these were the guys who were told, hey, we're going to sort you out. Now they're on the streets, they are active. And I love to see that they're active. I've never seen anything like this before. We can't do things haphazardly. The youth are woke. Let's be aware of that.
It would have made much sense if after all these taxes, the government gives us free education, government gives us free healthcare, government gives us subsidized transport rates.
And then they charge. Let's credit the World in One News for that report we had. This is a report on the Kenyan protest. I want to read a few comments on, because I asked the question when people have protested before, a few people are responding. So Papa says, Bernard, I took part in the mob rubber struggle, University of Ghana 1999, on AFUF and RFUF. Yes, I remember that demonstration. Bernard, the Ghanaian youth or average floating voter is very cynical and untrusting of politicians. And that may be because they haven't seen anything or anyone different. All politicians are painted with the same brush, liars out to benefit themselves. Until we choose to trust and see and hold them accountable, we'll keep voting the same way. Like we have to choose, like how we choose to support our football teams. This is from Bridget. Bernard, it's simple. Most demonstrations in Ghana are often influenced by party politics to favor a particular political group. However, I believe Komipreko was one apolitical demonstration. When a demonstration has underlying party politics and electoral victory motives, it tends to favor one side. This deters non-political individuals from participating, even though the issues affect all of them. More comments on this demonstration matter. Bernard, let me get this. There's one that came in that I thought would be useful for the yes. Bernard, I've been to Kenya many times, and I can tell you the cost of living in Kenya is way better than Ghana. And even there, they are protesting. The wind of change is blowing. It may hit Ghana soon. All right, that's from Edem. And then here's one that is quite interesting. Good morning, team. You ask what's wrong with Ghanaians and why they don't protest under any circumstance in stark contrast to other countries. There are a few factors, but honestly, culturally, we have the urge to challenge leadership trained and beaten out of us very early. I mean, come on, in Ghana, when a child meets an adult with full eye contact, they are deemed disrespectful. Extrapolate from there. The end result is that Ghanaians are the single most docile, pliable, repressed, and apathetic group of people I have ever seen. If it's an online campaign there, everyone will change their DP right now. But to master the organization, unity, and drive to demonstrate, it will not happen. This is from Ernest, who's texting me as well. Let me read a few more. Nathan,
yes, this one says, thank you, Nathan. I'm afraid to demonstrate because I've seen people beaten. But if there's a Duncan Williams in a demo, I know you won't be violent. I'll join. Bernard, Kenyans are outspoken. They don't mince words. If they don't like it, they don't like it. Ghanaians are trained to be submissive and likable. No wonder we say, please, good morning. Dorcas from Accra and that. This one says Ghanaian political leaders should take a lesson from the situation in Kenya. Ghana is slowly heading towards something bigger that they can handle. It started with some Ghanaians deciding not to vote because NDC and NPP are birds of a feather. Ghanaians will surely have enough one day, and that day is just around the corner. George from Airport City. This one says, you cannot discount the fact that the media and certain important organizations lean towards a particular party because of the atrocities they suffered under the other party. As Nathan said, if the youth do a massive demonstration tomorrow, the media and important organizations will not say anything about it. So what's the use? Kobe from Medina. This one says, I love how Nathan is flowing this morning. Two things I know that will not allow this kind of protest in Ghana: ethnicity and politics. The youth of this country always gravitate towards the party that sent them to the military, provides some 50 cedis to them when they make noise on social. The party that is acceptable to our ethnicity. So Ghanaian leaders will always take us for a ride. Daniel Intema. The business scientist says most Ghanaians are indifferent when it comes to protest. The Mempeme mentality is the main cause of that indifference. This one says this can't happen in this country because our citizens are overly partisan. No matter what their party is doing, they will support it. Our youth are also easily swayed with peanuts from the politicians. We pretend to be religious, and that is killing us as a people. Samuel Azira from Yape sent that. This one says, to know the political thinking of Gen Zs, look at campus politics. It's purely the two parties. These two parties have infiltrated all aspects of the nation. As for the politicization in Ghana, it's a way of life. I remember my aunt visited last year after I finished national service and I was home. She asked if I still had my voter's ID and asked me to be ready to vote the current regime out. She assured me that the other party would definitely create jobs, can in Santa Maria Senda. This one says, I personally will not join any demo aimed at any government because the leaders and organizers of these demos use them to launch their political campaigns, agenda, etc. They later become politicians and do worse than what they protested against. Remember Occupy Ghana, Komipreku, Domso, hotels, etc. Nana Ajay said that. But like you rightly said, our demo culture might have also shifted gradually towards social than rather being on the ground, partly because of the acts of brutality on the part of security forces. Today's demos are more radio, TV, and social. Secondly, the level of politicization in Ghana is too high, making people feel they cannot demonstrate against their own party, even though they disagree, and will vent on social but not go on demo. Thirdly, I agree with the lack of support from major stakeholders such as the clergy, celebs, and
let me bring you home and took comment from Sky.
Somebody's asking if I'll show up for them. Yes, I went for Save Ghana Football.
Okay, let me put the question. One of the things we saw in the Kenyan demo was that the people were actually targeting specific MPs who they believe supported the vote. Right. So this demonstration is very focused on the vote, on the issue. Do you get it? Now, is that possible here? And is that different? Because here, even though generally NDC will support and people will disagree, it's like they are targeting specific individuals. Is it because their parliament is a bit more mixed? Because I think there are 3 parties or something. So it's like a lot more nuanced rather than simply minority walking out. And in Ghana, it's more like one side disagrees, one side agrees. Here, they are picking Sky. You voted for, so we'll beat you. You didn't vote for, that kind of thing. That's quite an interesting angle to the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. As a general observation, I don't think Ghanaians are predisposed to using violence to settle scores. And you can look at the history of our people. The demonstrations that ultimately led to our independence will form one part of the history we're talking about. Yes, even before that, you saw how we rose up against the British wanting to take over our lands in the 1800s and insisted that, look, we have got to own our own lands. We sent people to the UK to debate there in their parliament to make our position clear to the Queen of England that, look, we want to own our own lands. Of course, there were demonstrations involved, and we used some other means of engaging the system to ensure that our voice was heard. Of course, when we tried peaceful means and it failed, the ex-army officers went to the castle to raise their voices. Ultimately, some of them were shot down. Of course, they did not use violence. They went there peacefully.
They were met with force.
Exactly. So that will feed into the culture that Nathan has spoken about. That ultimately, people became sensitive to the idea of going out to demonstrate because of the likelihood that force will be used to suppress them. Again, during the Achampong era, this Unigov matter, we saw demonstrations or civil actions forcing the government to abandon the idea of this because they thought that the regime wanted to perpetuate itself with this Unigov business. And then you come down to the Rawlings era, we saw Komipreku. Right. Of course, you've not seen the kind of large-scale demonstrations that we've seen in other countries like the Arab Spring and all of that in recent memory in Ghana. But there have always been demonstrations. But to feed into Nata's point, I think Ghanaians have come to feel that the use of state power to brutally suppress demonstrations of this kind does not inure to their benefit in any way. And therefore, people would rather prefer to sit at home instead of going out there to demonstrate. To many people, that would sound as though people are being cowards. But you can also look at that within a certain context. Do we have other ways of engaging the system? Yes. We have civil society organizations, the likes of Imani, CDD Ghana, Institute of Economic Affairs, Fix the Country Now. What's the name? The Isankuma one. Yeah, that's right. All of these are providing avenues to engage the system. As to whether they help to change policy or direction of government, it's an entirely different matter. And then people use the courts. So where people believe that certain things are not done properly, they go to courts to litigate. Of course, there are times that the court system, in the eyes of the people, fails them. But that is also a very useful means of raising your voices against specific things happening in your country. Now, to situate the answer within the context you asked it.
Parliament. People saying MP, you voted so.
Exactly.
So. Do you even know how people vote? Yeah, the eyes have it.
So, you see, there are two ways of voting in Parliament. And let me increase it to three. Either you vote through the ballot box, or you do a voice vote, or you do a head count. Normally, if you're voting for a minister, and the committee comes back and says that, look, this thing we don't have a consensus on it, we vote on it. In that case, they will first of all call for a voice vote, right? If there is a dispute as to whether the numbers that the speaker is talking about properly align, then they will say, okay, let's do a head count, or let's go straight to the ballot box, as the case may be. So it is often very difficult to tell whether Bernard Avle voted for this or that person when it is a secret ballot situation. But you can always hear from the discussions preceding the vote where they are likely to vote. So there's a difference there. It is unlike other jurisdictions like the US, where you clearly know that this person voted yes, this person voted no.
So they document everybody's vote.
Exactly. In our case, you can only make that extrapolation on the basis of conversations ahead of. And very recently, when the NDC took a hardline position that don't vote for these ministers, some of their MPs broke the party whip.
Yeah, but they didn't even know who they were.
Yes,
so that's
but they knew some of them.
Was, and even when they came to the issue of choosing the speaker, you remember there was this whole thing about who voted in MPP for Bagbin.
Exactly.
Because when they counted the thing, there was one extra, and they still can't find the person.
Exactly.
They are still looking for the person.
So you see, that helps us in a way.
Rather?
No, it helps us in a way, so that MPs are able to freely express their views on the matter.
But they are not accountable.
No, yes, but I'll come to that. The problem with that is that their decisions often are not informed by the input of citizens.
Okay.
Because I said here before that if it comes to a matter that is likely to impact the ordinary Ghanaian in your constituency in a truly transformative way, and I'm using it both in a positive and a negative sense, it is useful to go back to your constituency, hold town hall meetings and say, my people, this bill is before Parliament. It is the bill that is likely to impact you positively or negatively.
How should I vote?
What is your view as to what I should do as your representative?
Okay.
In this country, we've never seen that.
Yeah.
Even if it has happened, then it would have been an isolated development.
Yeah.
When the government wanted to do the debt exchange program, for instance, we had to consistently argue on this platform as to why it was important they should speak to the people. Before the Minister for Finance went to the Eastern region, I think, to do some town hall meeting. It was e-levy. Exactly. Now, which of our MPs went back to their constituency to say that, hey, this thing would affect you so negatively or positively? What is your view on it? They don't do that. So that is disrespect for the views of the people on the ground. You go there because of what they come to promise you in one way or the other, or what they don't promise you, then you go and vote. That creates a problem. What the people of Kenya are saying is that we live in this constituency with you. We are all struggling. We are all in this together. We voted for you to go and improve our lives. Yet you go into that chamber, take a decision that affects the price of bread, without actually consulting us on it.
So you suffer for it as an MP.
Exactly.
So the anger was directed at the parliamentarian.
Yeah, but the difficulty with that is that, look, it's democracy. I don't think that it is justifiable to go and beat up your representative in parliament because he voted in a way you disagree with. I think we have to make the point.
No, that's not. We are not supporting that. We are just talking about holding MPs accountable for their decisions. I just wanted to take some view on this briefly. The whole demonstration in Kenya, the culture of protest, the history issues, and all the issues around Ghanaians preferring to just, somebody said Ghanaians are trained to defer to authority, and therefore we are not interested in gidi as compared to our Nigerian cousins or our Kenyan siblings. Is that something you buy into? Ghanaian is generally more...
I think it's oversimplifying the issue. And protests, revolts, demonstrations are generally triggered by dissatisfaction and the degree of dissatisfaction. Now, it is only when it gets to a tipping point where the masses and the social elite can connect to the element of dissatisfaction. Okay, in this period where we find ourselves, if you have a demonstration where you have to instruct people to demonstrate, nothing will work. And this is how we have done it in Ghana. Let's go and demonstrate. It is only when people wake up to the reality of the issues as they confronting them, staring at them. When Kenya decided to increase taxes on bread, the moment you touch bread, you have touched a sore point. It's as basic as you can get. Things like that. So I think it's been boiling for a while, and we've seen symptoms. So I don't want to say that as for Ghanaians we can't do that, and as for Kenyans they can do that. I'm sure a few years ago Kenyans also thought that they couldn't do that. And
nobody should downplay. So people should say that Ghanaians by nature don't demonstrate.
Nobody should say that. Ghanaians do. It is the degree of connectedness to the element of dissatisfaction that can bring this uprising.
So the connection of the social
elite, yes.
And then also the trigger.
Exactly.
So if somebody can say something that will trigger it, somebody will do something.
And with the Kenyan thing, it's not necessarily the what
that
they are protesting. The lower end of the spectrum is protesting about the what. The middle level is protesting about the how the guy is going about the thing.
He's not listening.
You understand? I have since yesterday been following K24, and you see that the middle class, all they say is to advise Ruto.
Like the way he's going to.
Like the way you are going is not the way. In fact, some of his friends have taken to the media, and some said, "Stop following the Ugandan president. Stop following the Ugandan president. You turn this country upside down."
Yeah,
you understand? And at times the posturing is like a kid. It's like, I'll do what I want to do. You can't do that.
I like that. So then you are saying the lower classes, the what?
The what?
But then the elite are angry with his style.
The style, the how.
His rhetoric.
Yes. You see, unfortunately for Kenya, they don't have the traditional authority structures like we do, where you have chiefs like we do.
Can advise you that,
they have council of elders in their traditional authorities, but they don't have your kind of asante when you say, "Hey, everybody will run away." Or these days, the Gamanche too is coming up. Frankly,
so they don't have that. Nobody can speak to a guy.
Yeah. So and the thing, nobody instructed it. When last week I was with a group of Kenyans, they were talking about how Kenya is very difficult, things are getting difficult, but nobody saw this coming.
It's not as if somebody planned it.
That's what I'm saying, that if you plan it, people are suspicious of you, the one planning it.
So they want, if it's
spontaneity is what it is. It's what it is. And if somebody says something that Kumi Preko was not political, I disagree. It was highly political, maybe not partisan.
It was political, yeah.
It was because the issues were political. Yeah. It was about governance. And people protested.
Maybe what he's trying to say is that...
No, I'm saying that partisanship. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it was...
But most of the people were... No, it was.
To a large extent, it was partisan.
It was partisan. How do you say partisan? Because at the time we had CPP.
It was a text we read. You are right.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that one day, if Henry Quarter is listening to us, he should be copying notes from countries that have succeeded in dealing with these uprisings. Because what happened in Kenya, it can happen in Ghana. If we don't.
Oh, sorry, he's the minister for.
I'm talking about Interior Ministry.
I still think about him as
Greater Accra.
Yeah, Greater Accra.
I'm just saying that you see, this thing nobody designs it,
which is why it was so spontaneous and widespread.
Yes,
Charlie, 35 out of 47 counties is
serious. It is true that
the whole country.
Yeah, but you see,
Sky, it is true that they shouldn't go into Parliament and start burning buildings. It is true.
Yeah.
So is it true that even if they burnt buildings, you can't shoot them?
Yeah, that he also made that point. You made that point.
Yes.
You cannot fire a bullet at any protester, even if he burns the building, because there are laws that should deal with somebody who for arson.
And if you listen to the
what I'm saying is that you can't fire back with bullets. Look, you know how many people died yesterday? 13.
If you listen to the 7-minute speech of the president of Kenya, it's very serious. The guys, basically, in summary, said what began as a peaceful protest by legitimate people has been hijacked by thugs and criminals. And therefore, he is commending the Kenyan security forces for what they've done, and that they will do everything to prevent what happened yesterday from repeating itself at any cost.
You see, that's problematic.
Serious. Okay, the guy sounds. I think some point around his style. You know, Ruto's style first was like, Charlie, he's talking nicely, but the kind of things he's saying, I think it's going to annoy people more.
Okay.
Because you are telling people that you basically use all state power.
I think he's digging a hole.
Yeah, he's going to get into major trouble.
You see, not to be seen to be talking for him.
Oh, you can't talk for him. You don't know him from Adam.
No, there's a reason I'm issuing that caveat. You see, where president sits, he is fed with all kinds of information.
By who?
By the system.
By who?
Security.
By people he chooses. That point should be made clear.
That's true. He is the head of security in that country. Kenya sits in a very volatile region. Somalia is there creating his own problem. Internally, they are dealing with their own terrorists and all of that.
They're very serious.
It's a very
situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, sitting here, I don't know what information he has to have moved from his calm demeanor to say that criminals and other hardliners have hijacked the process and are using it for their own things. I have a problem with how he's responded to the situation. What appears to be excessive use of force. Under no circumstance must you use the kind of deadly force that was used. You have to be measured, even when they are burning down state property. Fire rounds that are not live in order to disable a person and to disengage what he was doing. But you see, we should also note that sometimes it is almost always the case that things start smoothly and other people get involved. Let me give you a typical example. There was it must have been a CJA demonstration or one of those demonstrations.
There was even a demonstration at Tech. You remember there was a KNUSC demo a few years ago against a VC, which initially was started by students, and it was reported that it had been hijacked by some people. They had been burning things. So usually when a demonstration gets out of control, you have generally organizers saying that it's some people who came to do it, not us.
Exactly. So
that's generally what people say.
So there was a demonstration that I covered together with HC Kanku in our earliest years. We went through and got through to the castle. I mean, of course, you see people insulting the police, people pulled out their pants, open their backside to the police, and do all kinds of very, very outlandish things. When we got to the castle, the intersection where the soldiers, our heroes died, the guys were demanding that they wanted to go to the presidency to present their petition to the president. Akufo Asiedu of the police service at the time was instructing his men, no, you cannot go beyond this particular line. The people from the presidency will come and receive the petition. Back and forth, they said no, they wanted to go. Then from nowhere, there was a big stone carried by someone from within the crowd. And threw the stone. There was a doctor, police officer at the time. I've forgotten his name. The thing hit his chest, bang, like that. The man fell. If my memory serves me correct. Then the guy, Akufo Asiedu, at that point, said charge.
Hey, and you were there.
people were beaten to the core. And that was when you heard Sikanku saying that they wanted to kill him.
No, he saw. He fired tear gas and he was shouting on air that
they are fired bomb or something like that.
That was at this place, Abu Blushi. But
No, it was. The point I'm making is that, of course, to a large extent, the police have tolerated how the people were angry and they were venting it in a civil
way. Once you beat 100 people.
No.
Don't have been thrown by 100 people.
No, what I'm saying is that, but you see, a number of people actually pelted the police subsequently. The point I'm making is that there are times that things get out of control.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a properly trained set of people, security men, dealing with the situation, it degenerates.
Fair enough.
And that creates problems. So we need to understand that when you are sending officers to deal with situations like that, you need the most professional to be there. And then also leaders of demonstration need to also be aware of the reality of people who
takes me back to the point
problems.
He's making. Because you see, if you listen to the president of Kenya, he seems to be taking a hardline stance.
Which is wrong.
The point is, maybe the people who are informing him may not be giving the true picture of the level of anger in the country. You get it? Because he is saying that it was a peaceful demo that was hijacked. That could be true. But I listened to the report. You listen to the report of the lady talking. The lady was very angry. Now, does that lady sound like a criminal to you?
No, you see.
No, I'm making a point. I'm saying that sometimes the leaders choose and pick what they believe, and that can worsen the situation. Because if you look at the spontaneous outpour of anger in that country, a president can use conciliatory language to calm tensions and ask for negotiations. But if he goes the route of we will go at every cost to prevent what happens, it may then lead to the country burning down. So I'm just saying that the leader always sets the tone. All right, and we are all in Ghana talking, but we are all seeing what's happening in that country. I think that the rhetoric of Ruto may be his own undoing. Godfred also made that point, that he was very popular in his coming to power. In less than a year and a half, you are seeing this level of demonstration against you, including in his hometown.
Yeah, Bernard, you see.
So we are just saying, look, Sky, we are not litigating this. He has, whatever happens, the leader has to decide how this thing ends.
Yeah.
Imagine if he said, okay, he's suspending the bill, and now he's calling for another meeting. You think the people will demonstrate tomorrow morning?
You see, that is not the job of president. You understand? No, you see, in this,
he's supposed to keep his country safe.
In this,
so if his country is
in this case, you need a responsible parliament. And see, if you have a pliant parliament that is almost always rubber stamping what the president brings or the executive brings, that's where you have problems like that. Because let me give you.
I think you've actually defined it. You know, is the two levels of what we are seeing in Kenya. Original protest was against parliament.
Yeah.
They went out. That's why the first place they went to was parliament.
Yeah. Don't pass it.
Then they picked up the president's body language and his utterances.
They take Adam
and said, "Oh, really? You're also adding to it. You, in fact, you are the main cause of the thing. So now let's go after." Yesterday, some people went after his son's
investment.
Car. So here his major car, every talk of the town car. They went after him. Police had to intervene. I'm just saying that when it gets out of hand, it gets very difficult to manage.
And the leadership must set the tone in making sure that they listen to the people and act accordingly.
And Bernard, at this point, Ruto will be the loser.
Definitely.
He cannot win in this situation because he is going to have to make certain concessions.
Yes, he would have to back down.
He did not figure from beginning.
Wonderful.
Because people that you thought from beginning will be on your side will have difficulty in supporting you. And that's the problem that we are having. And again, you see, you talked about the peculiar security situation of Kenya, which will make any president panic at a thing like that. But in this case, these are an identified demographic group that they have identified themselves that we are the young people of Kenya. We don't care about the political struggles. We just want to live our lives.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't separate an Al-Shabaab terrorist.
No, they can take advantage.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
Hang on.
And then also,
I'm saying that even if an Al-Shabaab terrorist finds themselves in this, go after the Al-Shabaab. Don't go and kill the innocent person. That's all we are saying.
I think that point is
That's
fair.
don't go because you suspect that there's Al Shabaab. No, you go and kill a normal university student.
That's unacceptable.
You see, so that's why I said that we should be copying. We should be picking lessons from this as a country.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenya is burning. What do? We should fetch water
by our beard.
because the issues that have played up in Kenya, we have seen symptoms of these issues in various fronts in our own country.
Yes, sir.
But to go and sit down and sleep and say Ghanaians are not, what's the word? As for Ghanaians, we are peaceful.
It's a lie.
Forever we thought that La Côte d'Ivoire was very peaceful.
Until so happened. I think we'll end it there.